and then I'll give you some homework. Actually, well, I'll explain that in a second. Let's do the foot muscles first. That's such a pleasant part of what I have to share. Okay. All right. Okay, so we didn't freeze. That's a good thing. Okay, everybody. So, yeah, by the way, I hope you're starting to see some patterns. Like, we've learned about the long hallucis longus in the back of the leg, the flexor hallucis longus and the flexor digitorum longus in the back of the leg, and then last week we learned about the flexor hallucis brevis, which is on the foot. And then in front of the leg we've got an extensor hallucis longus, and last week we learned about an extensor hallucis brevis that lives on the top of the foot. I mean, I hope that it makes a lot of kind of matching up sort of sense. Most of it does make a lot of sense. We are going very deep into the foot this time to study some other muscles. So, you have a muscle that lives on the back of your leg in the sural region that you hopefully all know now, that flexes your digits, right? And that muscle is called your flexor digitorum longus. It comes down around your medial malleolus and hooks into your digits down here. Well, you have another muscle attached to that very muscle that helps give it extra power and helps make it pull on track. So if you will look at the slide here, the quadratus plantae is an extremely unusual muscle. It's named quadratus because it's essentially four-sided. It's named plantae because it's in your plantar region. Its origin is your calcaneus, which is your heel bone, yeah? But its insertion is actually into the flexor digitorum longus tendon. So that tendon that you see there that it's inserting into is the flexor digitorum longus tendon. That muscle from that tendon lives up the backside of your leg. And this muscle helps kind of pull that muscle on track and make sure that you're pulling your toes evenly. It helps to turbocharge the whole thing. But it helps to flex toes 2 through 5, just like the flexor digitorum longus does. But its tendon is the flexor digitorum tendon. So the origin of the quadratus plantae is the calcaneus, your heel, and its insertion is literally into the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. It inserts in those tendons and helps pull on them as well. Yeah? Yeah. So please, Mr. Blygen, please.
Can you hold up the foot again?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, let me stop sharing this really quick because, yeah, go for it. Yes, sir.
On the bottom of the foot, in the middle part of it, right there, like dead center, whenever I do feet on my clients, they always tend to jerk in that spot. Is it like, am I hitting bone, or is that like a sensitive muscle spot?
I mean, it is a sensitive muscle spot. There's a lot going on right here. So these are where your major arch support muscles are, and this should be the most tired spot of the foot. Does that make sense? And so it could just be that, sir. Obviously, there's bone all throughout there, and you could be hitting a bone, but I suspect, as long as you're not talking about the outside of the foot, because the outside of the foot does have a bump here that is bone. But if you're talking about really in the center here, I suspect you're hitting things like the insertion for the tibialis posterior comes in here. And also the quadratus plantae is here, and all sorts of other stuff. So I suspect that's what they're feeling. These bones right in here are under a lot of pressure to stay arched, and they're always flattening out and stuff. So this should be the most sore spot of the foot, really.
Okay, yeah, because it kind of feels kind of bony when I'm pressing there as well, so I kind of back off.
Yeah.
But if it's just tenderness that I'm feeling, then probably just slow down there.
Probably just slow down there. Like, I mean, I don't know exactly what you're doing and stuff. I'm glad that they're actually having that reaction go, because it means you're really in the foot. And most people work feet too lightly. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So, Miss Mejia, why is the quadratus plantae called the quadratus plantae?
Because it's like a square, like quadratus, and it's on the plantar surface, which is the bottom of the foot.
Yeah. Can you name two other quadratus muscles?
Quadratus femoris and quadratus lumborum.
Awesome. One was a deep 6 lateral hip rotator, and the other one was an abdominal. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Miss Routson.
Yes.
Miss Routson, why is the quadratus plantae called the quadratus plantae?
Lord have mercy, I just trailed off massaging feet and I don't know.
Well, what would you guess why they call it the quadratus plantae?
Because it has 4 sides.
Yes, that's exactly right. 4 sides, and what do you suppose they call it plantae for?
Because it helps you plant your foot.
Or it's in the plantar region?
There we go.
I like that too. Good. 4-sided muscle in the plantar region. Can you name 2 other quadratus muscles for us?
Quadratus lumborum.
Yep, abdominal muscle.
Quadratus femoris.
Yep, deep 6. Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Mr. Tate.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tate, why is the quadratus plantae called the quadratus plantae?
Because it's in the quadratus plantae is in the plantar region.
Yes, quadratus plantae is in the plantar region. That explains plantae. Why is it called quadratus?
It's 4-sided.
Thank you, sir. And can you name 2 other quadratus muscles?
Quadratus lumborum and the I'm gonna say quadratus femoris.
Femoris, yeah, the deep 6 muscle.
Femoris. There you go.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown.
Yes, Mr. T.
Mr. Brown, why is the quadratus plantae called the quadratus plantae?
It's I haven't been paying attention. I'm not gonna lie.
I can tell.
Hit the wall.
It might be a good
I'm
time
gonna
to start.
Take a wild guess and say it's a 4-headed muscle in the plantar region.
Yeah. Now, if it was quadriceps, seps means heads. That would be a 4-headed, but it's quadratus. So 4 is right, but it's a 4 what?
Or
Sided. 4-sided muscle.
I thought that was gonna be too simple.
4-sided muscle in the plantar region. Yes. Can you name 2 other quadratus muscles that you already know about?
Quadratus femoris, and isn't there a quadratus lumborum?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Let's head back here. So, again, the origin of the quadratus plantae, where it starts, is right here on your heel bone, otherwise known as your calcaneus. Its insertion is into the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus, which is kind of unusual. We will see this again in the hand. There's some muscles that do this in the hand too, that actually insert into other muscles in a way. But so its origin is the calcaneus, and its insertion is into the flexor digitorum longus tendon. Cool? Cool. Let's check that too, just out of curiosity. Yes. Yes, please, Miss Sarno.
Yeah, I saw a lot the people what I work on and Dr. policies it get tight under the
Yes, I agree with you. She's talking about this kind of muscles that run along, kind of underneath the big toe here, and they get very tight because, again, they're arch support muscles. muscles. Anything right in this area gets very tight, but I'll actually pinch the muscles on the outside of the foot right here on both sides. But yeah, I agree with you. They do get very tight. Yeah, good.
And sometimes they cause the up on the top too.
Yeah.
Because they be like walk like this. Because like here, like have the nut this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what what we can do to try to
Well, a couple things. One is when you're massaging a foot, you really do want to get like to where you're actually hitting this heel, because a lot of these important muscles attach back here on the side of the heel. So don't just rub over the top of it. A lot of people really do kind of rub their foot over. Most people do. We want you to go into this heel to get all this stuff that hooks in there. I also think putting movement into your foot massage, so when you're here, pressing into here and moving this stuff around helps to open all this up. And this should rotate and everything. So you should be doing lots of foot movement, guys, when you're working the bottom here. Because that's what you want to restore to the foot. It's foot movement. Cool?
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Because
thank you.
sometimes I feel like even I work on and it's loosening up, but in the finger, like in the back, like
Yeah.
here, they're not loose.
Yeah,
It will not go like this.
yeah. And we're actually going to talk today about some muscles that are actually between your toes, and they're the same muscles that are between your hands. So we're going to get to that next. It's kind of cool. Yeah, thank you. Miss Walker T.
Yes.
Miss Walker T, what is the origin and insertion for the quadratus plantae?
The origin is the calcaneus.
Yes. Good. And it inserts into what or where?
Looks like the whole part of the calcaneus, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
And then it inserts into the digitorum longus tendon.
thank you, ma'am. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Flexor digitorum.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Mr. Riedel.
Yes.
What is the origin and insertion of the quadratus plantae?
The calcaneus is the origin, and the flexor digitorum longus tendon
Excellent.
is
Could not have said it better myself, sir. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, everybody. And the point of this, muscle is it's hard to tell, but if you look at this picture, these tendons would get pulled off to the side if they were just pulling for the muscle up your leg. So this thing helps pull them back on track so that your toes bend straight down. And it gives extra strength to it. It is also a muscle that gets sore in your arch because it does help with arch support. Now, if we go below that muscle, we get to some muscles that are found in between your metatarsals that connect to your proximal phalanges. And I don't care too much about the origin insertion. What I want you to realize is that these muscles are called the plantar interossei. After that, we're going to learn about the dorsal interossei because they're both in there, between there. And later we'll learn about the lumbricals. But the plantar interossei and dorsal interossei are also found in your hand. They changed the names. It's palmar interossei and dorsal interossei in your hand. But it's the same thing. And the real point I want to make here to everybody, yeah, Mr. Blygen, please.
I didn't mean to cut you off in the middle of your sentence.
No, this is good. Go ahead.
No, it feels really good when you trace those muscles in
Yes.
the feet and in the hands.
Yes.
It feels really good, especially for us therapists. Like I do it to myself, and it feels really good as well.
I actually watched you do it while I was talking to you today. You were like working in there. And you're absolutely right, sir. And you can actually move the metacarpals or the metatarsals in the foot to try to get between them. And the real significance of this is, think what a great massage therapist you guys are if you're actually getting in between the bones. These muscles actually help tie the bones of the feet together. The plantar interossei help to adduct the toes to pull them in together. But the real point is they're muscles found in between the metatarsals. And the ones at the bottom of your foot are called the plantar interossei. The ones on the top of your foot are called the dorsal interossei. But they're between the bones. They're not really on the top and the bottom. They're between the bones. And you can actually wiggle the metatarsals and get between those bones and get to them. So that's the plantar and the dorsal interossei. And basically, from a massage therapist point of view, we can get really fancy with them if you want to talk about what they do. One set adducts and the other abducts, but I'm actually not that concerned with that. What I want you to know is that those are the two muscles found between your metatarsals. So is there meat between your hand bones, in your actual hand, and in your foot bones, not the toes, but up here? Yes. And that meat is the dorsal interossei and the plantar interossei. I'm sure I will ask you that question tomorrow. What's the meat found between your bones, in your feet, and between the metatarsals? And that's the dorsal interossei and the plantar interossei. And Mr. Blige is very right. It feels very good to get down in there and work that stuff out and open up the hand, truly get it to open up. The idea is that you would like somebody to be like putty after you're done with them. And we forget, but a lot of stuff in your body is supposed to move that has stopped moving for us because we don't use it. But you really should have a lot of flexibility between your metacarpals or your metatarsals, which are the foot bones up here. Yeah. Okay. So, the two muscles between your metatarsals are your dorsal interossei and your plantar interossei. Let's go back and make things a little bit more confusing here. So remember the quadratus plantae had an origin on the calcaneus and an insertion into the flexor digitorum longus tendon. We're also going to learn about the lumbricals of the foot, and you have lumbricals of the hand too, by the way. These muscles will kind of repeat when we get to your hands. Hands and feet are very similar. The lumbricals of the hands have an origin of the flexor digitorum longus tendon and insert into the proximal phalanges of your toe. And they too help to flex the toes. I can explain why they help to extend in a minute, but that's beside the point right now. Yes, Ms. Sarno.
I have one more question. How
Dorsal interossei.
interossei and lumbrical, and sometimes they tie and they cause the joint cannot bending.
Yes, she is right. Your lumbricals can actually cause your toes to kind of hammer toe. They can actually extend and flex the toes and stuff. They can actually mess with your toes. You're right, and cause them to be very, very tight. Yeah.
And I see someone they cannot bend.
Yeah.
This the lock the joint the finger the phalange joint.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, they can mess with that. So very important. You can massage them from the bottom of the foot. They're very accessible, and you guys should be trying to massage them. So we've got this very complicated muscle that starts simply on the back of your leg called the flexor digitorum longus. It comes around the medial malleolus of your foot and it hooks down into your toes, digits 2 through 5 at the tips of them, kind of. Then this muscle, off this muscle up here, there's the lumbricals that have an origin on this muscle and they insert into the proximal phalanges here. And we've got a muscle in back that starts in the calcaneus and inserts into the flexor digitorum longus. So the flexor digitorum longus has a muscle coming off it and a muscle going into it all underneath the feet. all helping to flex your toes. So they're really three muscles combined working together. And they can work separately too, but they usually work together to kind of keep the tendons on track and all that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest points about all this is there's a lot of cool stuff in the foot. Please get down between the bones. Please get down to the dorsal and the plantar interossei. Please, please, please. That's really the point of all that. Yeah? Okay. All right. So I'm going to do two things here.